A LARP is a simulation of some kind where you play roles, and as opposed to other types of role-playing, including internet role-playing or tabletop, where you narrate actions that are taken, like, my character walks into the room and says to the other people that they're so upset about whatever's happened, you actually walk into a room and start shouting at people who've displeased you, or your character, as it were.
It depends who I'm talking to. If I'm explaining it to someone who knows very little about this kind of thing, I generally go with, well, it's like a cross between improv theater and like Dungeons and Dragons.
The bastard child of Dungeons and Dragons and improv theater.
It depends a lot on what their background is. If they've got tabletop background, well, it's like tabletop where you're standing up and moving around.
If you have that concept of you have this character, you have these goals, you have these motivations, plus you're on your feet, you're interacting, you're playing off of other people, you're doing your thing, but you're not in theater where you stand and tell your lines to the audience.
Well, I guess I would say that live action roleplay is taking on a character and using acting or role-playing skills to pursue the goals of that character.
Taking on the role of another character and actually doing as much as is possible and physically safe and such what they would do.
You have to make decisions on what happens next based on the context you've been given and the other characters that you're playing with.
If you are walking around the room and talking to people, you are doing live action role-playing. If you're exclusively sitting in a chair, you're probably not doing live action role-playing.
The thing that you do when you're a kid and you're reading a book and you sort of start imagining yourself as a character in the book. And this is kind of what you get to do, be part of the story.
In theatrical LARPing, you get a fairly defined character before you start that was created by somebody else. So it's kind of like a mix of theater with scripts and improv meeting somewhere in the middle.
I've done a fair amount of acting as well as role-playing, and I tend to draw the line at whether you are trying to achieve something. That if I just come into a room with a group of people and I play a role but I don't have any particular goal to achieve in that context, then to me, I'm doing an acting exercise. I'm doing some improv, which is great. I like doing that. But the thing that makes me feel like I am role-playing instead is that I'm in a context where there's a setting and a plot, and I have goals within that plot.
But you asked me how I would describe to somebody, all right, actually, how I would explain it to somebody for the first time non-facetiously. I'd say it's a children's game of make-believe, but with rules, so we avoid the bang bang, you're dead, no I'm not problem.
I also talk about it as like what kids do in playing pretend games, which we've all done to some degree or another, except this is done by largely adults and with more sophisticated and complicated plot lines, more sophisticated characters, and more sort of codified, with more rules.
You know, when we're 5, we pretend that we're a superhero and that our best friend is the villain that's seeking to take over the world, and you know, our goal is to stop him in some fashion and have our dramatic moment. And that to me is the most basic essence of what LARP is. That it's a chance for us to kind of return to childhood and make-believe a little bit.
How do I define it? That's actually way harder than I thought. LARP is like tabletops, but you move around. LARP is being physically immersive in playing your character. LARP is... How do I define LARP? It's live action role-playing.